Hello, welcome to another Alpha Strike We Play video. Hello, Tarron.
Hello, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And you know why I'm good?
Because we're talking about your dudes this time.
So we're talking Mythos, and in particular, Path of Chronozon.
I want to point out before we begin how freaking awesome that mini looks.
Is that Chester?
That's Chester.
Berryman?
Chester Berryman. They've managed to capture a dude being possessed by a demon as a mini. And I think that's freaking awesome.
It is very cool.
It's cool.
It is, in fact, I was talking about it before, it's in fact the very first art that I saw for Mythos. I said, oh, he looks kind of cool. I found out that that was an actual faction that you could take. So he was basically the reason why I picked this faction.
But hanging out for that faction after that, weren't you?
Crazed cultists, I mean,
it's
just awesome. I mean,
seriously,
that's what everyone should have in their collection. I
guess.
I
reckon.
I suppose. So.
What we should all aspire to be.
Yes. So, he's quite interesting, but he basically came looking into history and lore and things like that. So, as we know for the game, it's just after the First World War, so the Great War, as it's referred to at the time, and all that disaster has sort of woken up all of these, Cthulhu and all of his mates and things
all
like
of his
that.
friends.
So bringing it into the world. So that's what happens when people are crap to one another, I suppose.
Yeah, it brings all the dark gods out.
So Chester Berryman, he basically came across all this sort of thing, and he likes his knowledge and likes to research and whatnot. And the more he looked, the more he sort of got sucked in. And Chronozon was the myth that he sort of came across.
The particular demon dude that went, I'll have a piece of that.
So in the game, he basically uses him as a conduit for getting into the material world and gives him a lot of power and things like that, and sort of shows him the big picture of what's going on, that it's not just humans being crap to one another. There are all these demons and myths and all that sort of thing. They all want to rule. So
they all don't want the other ones to rule. Presumably,
that's right.
Yeah,
it sort of makes sense.
Demons are people too.
So off he went and basically found some aspiring people to assist him in what he was trying to do and build up Chronozon's power.
Yeah,
and that's the individuals that are in the box set, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and gave them some really freaky game mechanics as well as a side effect of that.
Right, yeah.
Because this was a weird one. Seriously.
Yeah.
The first couple of times we were doing the first game, and it took you a while, it took me ages to figure out exactly why they are doing some of the things they're doing. But yeah, it's cool. Let's start with him though.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Start at the top. That's what we do.
The top.
So so if you have a look at the card, I don't know how easy it'll be to see on this. So
we can get Pillar to do it.
We'll see. If it doesn't work out, maybe Pillar can help us. So that's the front, and when you flip him, he becomes Chronozon. Okay, so and then the stats and the way he plays sort of changes and things like that.
Yeah, so he flips between a cultist leader and the demon that is possessing that.
Yeah, the actual myth. Yeah.
And it's a really cool mechanic, but it's freaky.
He's a bit of a beast, this guy, on either side. He starts with 24 wounds, so being the main leader, so he can get 3 actions. 27 points, so that's a big investment of points. So you expect him to sort of be able to do a lot of things.
But he cranks, so yeah.
So depending on which side. So on the Chester Berryman side, his movement's about the same as a normal human, 4. So most of my guys are 4.
With a 7 charge. Yeah.
7 charge, something like that.
Or a 4 and a 6.
Yeah. So he has a keyword cultist on that side as well. So there are a lot of sort of spells and abilities and things like that require cultist as a keyword to sort of activate. So when he's on this side, he's cultist. He actually has 3 myth abilities,
which is a lot.
Which is actually quite generous.
That's insane, and he generates 3 myths as well.
3, So the first one is Fork in the Path, which you can only use once per game, but every enemy model that has the bleed condition takes 2 wounds. Wherever they are on the board, doesn't matter.
And much like mine, there's quite a lot of bleed being dished out on your side. Not quite as much as my force, but you've got 1, 2, three of your array of models there are dishing out bleed just from their base attacks.
Yeah.
And there's a few extra bits and pieces around the place that give bleed. So there's a bit of it floating around there.
Yeah.
Um,
So he can also spend an action point to grant Vigor to a friendly model within 8 inches. So Vigor gives you an extra action.
yes.
So in this game, that's pretty good.
That's
That
fairly
is pretty
insane, actually.
Yeah.
That one is a good one that leaders quite a lot of leaders have that one.
Because there is another effect called fatigue, which removes. Yeah.
Reduces your actions, and having only 2, as they normally do, makes picking what you're going to do with that unit difficult sometimes, especially when you have conditions like bleed that take an action to get rid of.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty good. So he also has another one called Empower Ritual. Now there are 2 other models or 3 other models that have that ability as well. It's generally the girls. So there's I don't know. It doesn't establish whether they're brothers and sisters or they're married couples that he's met, but they've basically joined him, and so the guys walk around with these man catchers. Stuff like that.
And the ladies have the meat hooks and the ability to hurt people badly.
But there is something that they actually use in the game, which is like a ritual, and that's going on during the game. So this one has Empower Ritual, so you can add 1 to the current ritual progress. So you start at nothing, and it can go up to 20. So the further you move up this, the more things you can do. So for example, once you get up to 4, friendly cultists that inflict bleed, they heal a wound, so you can start healing.
Yeah.
And it just gets worse from there, actually.
And you use that so you pay those 4 points from the ritual, and you use that as like an ability during your turn.
Yes.
And it sticks.
That's right.
It's a permanent thing, right?
So,
or is it just that turn?
Well, it depends what it is. So
okay.
So once it reaches 4, you don't spend, so it stays on 4. Lydia, which we'll get to, she can actually trade in those points to do things.
Yeah.
So she spends them off there, but you just keep doing the ritual. But that requires Mythos points.
Yeah. So
there is a risk.
Every time you use a Mythos point, you have a risk of gaining or losing sanity or whatever it is.
So you gain a sanity token. But there is one important thing that so this is where we were struggling with it to begin with, is that all of them, except for the little beastie at the front there, what they call it, the spawn of Chronozon, they're like the Dorothy Good. They don't actually have a number on there. So they have
no limit.
Yeah. So they can't sort of reach it and then get forcibly flipped and then have to roll on that table.
Yeah. The only way to make them do it is for them to lose a sanity test or fail a sanity test. But they don't have a limit. So they don't flip. And it's really weird. But it's a really cool mechanic. I like it. It's just freaky.
Yeah. So it's like if they are flipped and they're on the red side, so at the start of their turn they have to check just like everybody else. But they can't be forced to flip by reaching the limit, which then forces you to roll on that table.
Because they don't have the limit.
They don't have the limit.
None of them have a limit. The only one that does is like you say, that spawn dude.
I mean, I suppose they're a lot more sort of used to being around all that stuff because they're cultists and stuff. What did you say? What did you say about it? That's Tuesday.
Yeah, that's for other factions. It's the increase of demonic forces and the coming of the dark gods. For these guys, it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
And they're like,
yeah. But as far as a spell slinger and things like that, he's got some options there. But he's not a wimp in combat either. In that, just in cultist form. So he's got Crushing Grasp, which is you have to be in base contact. So that adds 8 to your dice roll, and it can cause fatigue on a model if you actually roll your criticals.
Yeah, and that is the one that costs you your action points, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And it has Chaotic Bolt, which also adds 8 to your dice roll. That has a 10-inch range. It's an arcane.
And causes burn.
And
burn is nasty as well.
So causing fatigue, and causing burn. So there's some nice options there, which I really like.
And he can increase that with his chant, so he gains 1 to arcane attack while within 8 inches of at least one other friendly model.
Yeah.
And I think this was while we were trying to figure things out. I think the first game you had these guys spread out, if I remember correctly, and that was a mistake. But it was a mistake based on not knowing mechanics.
Yeah,
so
just giving it a go.
If you keep these guys within range of each other, they can seriously up their abilities with that closeness and the cult sort of following thing. It's really cool.
Yeah. So when I set up and I saw Tarron's Wildborn models there, I just got all big snakes.
Like, oh my god! Let's split this up so we don't all die at once.
That's exactly right, and that ended up being an issue for me. So next time. But that's okay. But there is one thing for him. So he has fragility of possession. So when this model has taken 4, 8, 12, 16, or 20 wounds, I flip the card. So if he starts getting beaten up or whatever, it throws him all in for a loop, and then Chronozon comes out. But the rules for Chronozon are the same on the other side. So if it takes hits, it comes back again. So he just beat the crap out of him. He's like,
No crap. He spent the whole game flipping all his cards over and backwards and forwards, and I'm getting confused trying to figure out what's going on sometimes.
Yeah. But it's like it sort of made sense with what they were trying to do under the mechanics.
Oh yeah,
it was really
so
cool.
he's flipping between those two different sides the way that he's being possessed and released by the demon. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. When you actually place him on the field for the very first time, you have to flip all the other models onto the red side. Yeah,
the injured side.
Injured side, or whatever you call it. Yeah, I can't remember what they call it. But
there's so when he first comes on the board, all of these guys start flipped. But if you take wounds on him, then he flips, and when he flips everybody else.
Yeah.
So, and then you've got an ability that was, which one was the one that had it? Was it Lydia?
Lydia.
Yes. So Lydia is this secondary leader. So she's actually the secondary leader, yes? She has that one.
She has the option to be a leader if there's no other leader on the field.
So she's kind of your backup guy, like Mercy was with mine. So she has the ability to flip a cultist.
Yes.
Yeah. There it is. So you, as this model activates, you may nominate another friendly cultist model and flip the character card. So if Berryman is up as Chester, if he's Chester, then everybody else is flipped. If she's flipped, she still has the taste of power, and he is a cultist. So she can use that to flip him over to the demon side. And when you flip to the demon side, all of the other characters flip back over to their normal side.
Yeah, so you've got the ready side, and then you've got the altered side, and there's a lot of flipping going on.
Oh, it was insane the amount of card flipping that was going on. It was like watching dudes doing magic tricks. It was insane. But that was part of the mechanics that we had to kind of struggle with. But it is really, really cool. And it makes them a really interesting faction I am assuming. Oh, yeah. It was interesting to watch.
Yes. And watch my face like...
he's standing there going, if I do this first, then that goes in, and then they... And you're going...
What's going on?
I don't know what's happening.
But the thing is, once you figure it out, it does actually open up a few tactical options for you.
Definitely.
So let's have a look at so we've got Jane Carter and Elizabeth Talbot. So they have the same stats. So they're the girls with the hooks.
Yep. So this lady here and the one over here.
Yep. So they can do, when they're ready side, they can do the Empower Ritual, which brings it up and you get extra abilities.
Increases your ritual progress.
So if they actually flip over onto their altered side, they gain bonuses to their combat range and arcane attacks.
Yeah.
So they lose the ability to bump up that ritual, but they get stronger in combat.
Yeah. And I think they get... Is God Shard on that side? No. That instead of the Empower Ritual, they get God Shard, which makes them even better in combat.
Yeah. That's the God Shard side of things. So... So they can make themselves stronger because they're...
Oh, I thought you meant they got a stat increase.
No,
okay. Yeah, so instead of the Empower Ritual, they get the God Shard, which gives them increased combat abilities.
Yeah. But they can't coordinate with their husband / brother, whoever they're
so
supposed
you've
to be,
got
with the man catcher thing, which gives them bonuses.
Jane Carter and Elizabeth Talbot, and then you've got Edward Carter and John Talbot, and they're the guys in front with the man catchers. So I think the general principle is the gentleman with the man catcher will catch a man, and then the young lady with the hooks will go and carve him up.
That's how it goes, yeah. And they can actually they can forcibly drag a model with them if they move. If you've got the man catcher thing, one of them attached to your.
Yeah, so you've got that snatch and grab. So mark an enemy human model, engage with this model until successfully disengaged by either model. Whenever this model moves, the marked model may move with it, remaining engaged. If the marked model chooses not to move, it suffers bleed and forgoes any disengaging strikes. So that's the equivalent of the man catcher being ripped free.
Yeah.
Is how I see that. At the start of its activation, the marked model may attempt a single combat test. If successful, remove the mark. So you're spending a myth point to enclose someone in the man catcher. And that was an actual weapon. They used to grab you around the arm or around the neck or whatever, and they had spikes on them.
Yeah, they're horrible.
So yeah, they're nasty pieces of work.
And their base attack can paralyze you with those man catchers.
Yeah.
If they get the critical, or if you've got the Mythos to spend to generate it.
And paralyze is bad.
Bad.
Fatigue isn't good because it costs you action points. Paralyze is bad because it gets rid of them. You don't get any action on your turn.
You skip your turn.
Yeah.
Which is
you activate your model, you go, I'm done, and you move on to the next one. And that is bad.
Yeah.
That is really, really bad. And one of the other problems is once you have that paralyzed condition and you're in contact with one of the gentlemen in question, your faction friends, your other models can't get you out of that paralyzed condition without getting rid of the enemy model because you have to be unengaged.
Correct. Yeah.
And that makes it really, really difficult. So if they spend the myth point and they snatch and grab you and they mark you, and they hit you with this man catcher thing and get a critical, or they spend another myth point and they paralyze you, they can drag you around and just keep you in contact with them. And there's very little you can do about it. It's really, really bad.
Yeah, yeah.
And then to make that even worse, the gentlemen in question are basically holding you down for the ladies in question to come along and rip you to bits.
Yeah, because they cause bleed.
Yep. So they cause bleed, and they also have easy prey. So they get a +1 to their attack when making a combat attack against an enemy model engaged with a man catcher. So you take the lads in first, you catch the man, you send the lady in, and she gets insane bonuses because you're there, you're stuck, you're paralyzed possibly. You're potentially being dragged around by your neck or arm, and you're also engaged with a man catcher, which means that she gets the bonuses.
Yeah.
And it's just, oh my God.
And the bleed, on this ritual thing, if the girls and like Chester, if he's not flipped to the altered side and Chronozon's running around killing stuff, once you get on to 12, so friendly cultists that inflict bleed, 8. Increase bleed damage inflicted by friendly cultists to 3. And then on 16, it goes up to 4. So if you get it high enough and they try to get away, they get the bleed condition, and then the girls start wailing on them and then cause bleed. That's a lot of damage. That really, really does add up.
It adds up quick. Yeah. I was quite lucky with our game because this didn't pan out for you quite as many times as it should have.
Well, you've only got one model. Was it Mercy? Mercy Good. She's the only one that's the correct size that thing will work, because you've got all big things. So so you're lucky in that respect because it shuts a lot of that down. But I still tried to get lots of guys around a single model to try and bring it down to get those bonuses up. But
I mean, all that says there is enemy human model engaged with this model. So she's the only one that I think actually says human.
Yeah.
And that was that was kind of the downfall of this faction for mine. I was going to say, we've got her over there, so have a quick look.
Dorothy Good and Blood have human. So it would have worked on her.
So it would have worked on her.
But that's it. So it's only the sisters.
Yeah.
But still, yeah.
So that's 2 models out of 5 where this will actually work if you let it get close enough.
Yeah.
And that's for a mechanic that you're kind of basing your entire combat section around. That's not necessarily a good thing. But it could have worked very, very well. And the easy prey isn't the single ability of these. Lydia also has it, the extra leader that we already talked about. She's also got easy prey.
Yeah.
But she gets... Yeah. So she gets the +1 for easy prey, but she also gets +2 combat attack when making a combat attack against an enemy model affected by Snatching Grab.
Yeah.
Which is the ability where you mark the enemy model.
Yeah.
So she has a potential for +3.
Which is good, especially if you can get a charge in there as well. You can really start racking up that damage.
You can really seriously hurt people with that sort of difference in dice rolls and values. That is insane.
Well, when we were playing though, because Chester was there and everyone was flipped, I had to start the turn rolling for every other model, and I ended up getting like fatigue on a lot of them and things like that. So
yeah,
luckily, Tarron's force, we weren't sort of deployed close enough that it was going to be a real issue, and they just spent actions to get rid of it. But you sort of need to use like Lydia and Chester. You've got to sort of watch which side they're on, and because I then used Lydia to flip Chester to Chronozon, which flipped everybody back, which was good. And he just then started.
It is a really cool thing where they've got the different flipping and all the different mechanics like meshing, but that's the downside, is that you've got all of these people on their altered side every now and then, and that means you're making a lot of rolls that could potentially technically kill them.
Yeah.
You could lose the model. If you roll really, really badly and you've got certain circumstances, the model will disappear. And that is, it's a huge downside. But I mean, given that the average roll is a 7, and the 7, I think it was 6 to 9 or something, was just fatigue.
Yeah.
I think that's a small price to pay for a really cool mechanic.
It's not too bad. So
but the potential is there for some really nasty stuff to happen, especially if there's a faction out there somewhere that influences other people's sanity rolls.
Yeah, we haven't seen all the cards for all the factions yet, because some of them are still being released.
Yeah.
As we sort of film here, the Adani is the next one to be released, which are like Carney folk.
Oh yeah.
But they haven't released the cards for those, so I don't know. I don't know what they're going to be like, but I'm sure there's going to be something that comes along. If you read the fluff about them and things like that, they'll probably have something like that.
To be honest, I've had my brain full just reading 2 sets of cards, so I haven't even looked at the others. These are just madness.
But Chronozon's pretty interesting because he can actually he has sweeping strike, which I think your Mercy Good has.
Yeah, one of mine's got that.
Yeah,
it lets you.
So if I get at least one wound on a target,
you can carry your attack on.
I can do another attack against a different model in base contact. So it's sweeping strike or whatever they call it. So so he is quite nasty, and he's adding like +8 to the dice rolls, causing paralysis and burn, and he causes fear. And the thing about him, madness is gained regardless of whether you pass or fail your fear test. So if passed, you can act as normal, but like he is just that horrible to witness.
That's that abomination thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
My guy,
was Cernos.
Cernos, yeah, he's got that as well.
Yeah.
It's really good. It doesn't matter whether you pass or fail, you're getting the sanity, and getting sanity points against you is bad.
Yeah. Although with
doesn't matter how it
the amount of flipping that my guys do, the counters tend to come off pretty quick,
Yeah,
which
'cause
is
when you
another
flip
really cool thing.
When you flip your guy, all the sanity counters go away.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that's another thing where Lydia's good. If someone's really starting to get those tokens on them,
You can use her to flip them instead.
flip them onto the ready side so they don't have to check and they're not going to get whisked away.